What is it like?
Thank you for the introduction here, Paola. Obviously, representing the recruitment field here, I can provide you with some data and a little bit of an overview of what's been happening in the last couple of months, actually. Because first and foremost, as I mentioned in my introduction, I'm very much specialized within the life science sector. So as part of a recruitment agency, we do cover a lot of roles on behalf of our clients within this spectrum. The reality of things is that in the last couple of months, in the last 6 months to be exact, from March onwards, the volume of hiring has definitely decreased, and we've seen an impact from that side as well, because there's definitely not that same rhythm in terms of hiring, and particularly within the life sciences, we've noticed that some of the projects and some of the positions that we were hiring for beforehand have either been halted or just put on the bench for the moment. However, in terms of what is expected from Q4, I have to say that the hiring plans will definitely strengthen towards the end of the year this year in all EMEA countries, actually. To be exact, 24 out of 26 countries. When instead, in comparison to last year, I would say it's still not as high a volume, but it will definitely increase in comparison to what we've seen so far during this year. So your efforts will surely be appreciated during this period towards end of the year, when we will see a lot of improvement in this area. Regarding the overall view in industry and locations, geographies as well, I have to say there have been noticed a few improvements in terms of particular countries, and the strongest labor markets are anticipated in Greece and Poland towards the end of this year. However, the weakest will be the UK and Croatia, to be exact. In fact, the Polish labor market seems to have bounced back, expecting an increase in hiring pace in Q4 across all industries. And at the exact extreme opposite, we find the UK, where employers continue to struggle with hiring volumes, actually. And there's still a market slump in 7 out of 9 industries, covering telecommunications, also transport, finance, and manufacturing. So things are still not recovering as fast as we would expect. However, there are also markets like Germany, where the growth is pretty steady. So we don't necessarily see a huge increase. We also don't see a huge decrease. Things have been moving quite steadily. There is still an impact in the manufacturing industry that Germany has been struggling with in the last couple of years, not necessarily Corona related, but this is definitely not expected to change right now. If we move it along in the life science industry, actually, I still have to say we are part of a very resilient industry. Around 55% of companies have said that they haven't increased their number of hirings, but 45% have. So things have stayed quite normal in 45% of companies, as Manpower Group has actually surveyed. And we are very positive that this is not going to change. In fact, it's going to increase towards the end of this year. So I do believe that this industry is still one that you need to keep an eye on. There's definitely an impact and a positive increase in CDMOs, for example, particularly related to manufacturing biologics and gene therapies. Also, the medical technology industry has seen a good increase, and it's not necessarily a surprise, but the consumable sector has seen a huge increase on the back of the coronavirus crisis, actually. But apart from the traditional industries, I would say there are a lot of other skill sets that are emerging as new skill sets in this spectrum. And I would definitely think that Mona has something to share with us from the corporate side of things, apart from what we see as a middleman, let's see, bridging the corporate to the job seekers. Mona, I will
Thanks.
leave it to you.
Thank you so much for giving that big, broad overview. That was really nice, especially hearing from what's happening in different geographies, different countries. From where we are sitting, the way we see it is that the sectors which are hiring pretty much revolve around essential work, science, technology. So if we just broadly split it into three, all the essential work, which means food retail, online retail, medical, hospital sector, this is still hiring, maybe not to the phase that they were in before, because they're not even letting people go. So, or people are not leaving as well very easily. So the movement has reduced, but it's still pretty much ongoing. And you do see, people who are needed in this sector. There is also activity that's happening in the startup NGO sector, startup sector, care sector, and consulting. I think Sunita alluded to that in our call yesterday, that consulting is hiring as well. And these are the requirements or the skills that are needed on a need basis in different organizations. So whether it's consulting, whether it's startup, where there's a lot of movement happening. There are startups that are letting go of people, but there are startups that are very actively hiring as well. It's a mix. So again, pretty much resonating towards these sectors. But when we say these sectors are hiring, it doesn't mean that every job in these industries are up. And I give you an example where I work. I work in the pharmaceutical sector, and there is not much activity around sales and marketing, and that's for a very good reason, because that's affected tremendously because of COVID. There is, however, a lot of need when it comes to functions that are critical to business, whether it's regulatory, whether it's quality, compliance, finance. These skill sets are there to stay. They will stay for a long time. And so you do see that when there are open positions in critical functions or fields, these are absolutely getting filled in, or these are going out in the market. But when it comes to sales, marketing, product specialism, there's a little bit of cautiousness. We are not holding off on recruitments, but there is caution to say, do we really need it now? Can we watch out for a few months? Do we really see how things are evolving? How these roles will evolve as well, because these are not the classic roles that will stay as is. These roles are going to evolve as well. And so there's a little bit of caution to say, let's hold on and let's wait to see a little bit more of what's going to happen before we start hiring in these sectors. But again, if it is critical, even within these roles, the hiring is on.
Yeah. Mona, actually linked to what you were also saying, quite a few of you in the survey were asking questions about working arrangements. What are the new type of working arrangements, employment arrangements, part-time, flexible work time, working from home, etc. I think Mona and team were also seeing a trend. More and more companies are exploring different alternative options of employment opportunities, and we are seeing an increase more and more of this flexibility, not only in terms of where you're working, but actually how many hours you're dedicated to which type of jobs, because there is a realization out there that flexibility is going to be the name of the game when it comes to finding an employment. So I don't know who would want to chip in on that, and maybe Andreea, I do know you have some numbers before we pivot perhaps into as well Karin's view on, these are the numbers, this is what the market is telling us, but let's see what the real life experience is as well as we are navigating and looking for new opportunities. Maybe Andreea, you would like to chip in a little bit on that conversation before we hand it over to Karin?
Of course. You mean precisely on the vacancies that are recruiting?
For example, yes. You can share with us a little bit the numbers that you researched.
Of course. So I will first start. I go back to the March month. When everything started, basically. Where personally I have seen that numbers of hiring on permanent roles decreased and contractor roles increased at that time. We have also observed that the duration of contractor roles that were previously budgeted for has been shorted from 12 months to 6 months, for example. But due to the pandemic situation, I will, as Mona mentioned previously, we have seen high demand for roles within quality, compliance, and regulatory affairs. Since September, however, because some sales roles are on the market as well. And there is still a focus on hiring employees for permanent position rather than contractor roles due to the nature of job, and also because companies are looking for talent who can commit for a longer period of time to thrive. Then let me share with you some roles that are hiring globally within this period. Such, for example, statistician and mathematician. We have a tendency to say that there will be within the coming years a 30% growth in the field. Genetic consultants as well, 27% growth. Operational research analyst, we will have 27% growth. Medical and health service manager as well. I think around 18% growth. Computer and information research scientist, 16% growth within the coming years. We will also be hiring within epidemiologists, sorry for the pronunciation. We have seen 400 more jobs, biomedical engineers as well, 700 more jobs, microbiologists, more than 1,000 jobs, chemical technician as well, more than 1,000 jobs, biochemist and biophysicist, around 2,000 jobs, biological technician, more than 5,000, medical scientists, more than 10,000, medical and clinical laboratory technologist and technician, more than 35,000, which is wow. So we can clearly see that within those sectors that I have mentioned, there will be some job within the coming years.
So we're seeing this trend of the STEMs, the famous STEMs, right, under the scientific area, math, chemistry, the sciences, etc. I think there's still room for the humanities, by the way, for those who are still interested in whether it's in HR or other fields, including commercial and marketing. I do know we have a very diverse group of participants ranging from marketing to finance to HR. And I think, as we were saying before, let's get because you all have your experience if you're in the market at the moment, and you know as well what it's like, and all of these numbers may sound a bit distant to you. Let's see what the reality is from your own personal experience. And in this, I really want to ask Karin to chime in as a senior HR executive who's also on the market. Who knows how to navigate when it comes to looking for new opportunities and her own professional development. And I think, Karin, I'm sure people would really appreciate getting your personal experience with this somehow bumpy job market that we were faced with.
So I would maybe start by saying, Paola, that of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario, right? We could hear that in some cases, there's still growth, maybe to a lesser degree, but still growth. So depending upon the country, the sector, the job, the skill set, the answer will be a different one. Right. For me, being in HR, and then particularly focusing on life sciences, that's where my experience is coming from. So it's that segment of the labor market, that crossover, if you like. So what have I, and this is anecdotal information that maybe completes some of what we have already heard. I would start by saying that, as I already mentioned, I entered into the job market actively in May. At that moment in time, I had made a very extensive list of search firms with my targeted geographies, with an emphasis on life sciences and on HR. And I started reaching out to them, and it was very easy. You pick up the phone or you send an email, and you had an appointment that same week. So then you know that things are super slow, right? Because this is not business as usual. If then I move forward a couple of months, then I could see and experience myself that in June, some jobs, maybe they were not the jobs that were for me per se, but some jobs started to materialize. Then July, August kind of went into a dip a little bit. Mid-July kind of went into a dip, and now it seems to be coming back to kind of the June level. However, only as late as last Monday, I spoke to a search firm, UK based. So to confirm in a way the story of UK is one of the countries that is struggling, where they were saying that they have opened up a contract branch because their regular permanent branch is not doing well enough. And the consultant was saying that for them, they hear from companies that, we're in budget mode and, we're going to delay hiring and we're going to ride the waves of 2020 and then we'll see what 21 brings. Another search firm in Switzerland, actually global search firm, I should say, because the person I spoke to is Switzerland-based, but global search firm, commented on the fact that they have done significant layoffs because business is not at a level that it was pre-COVID, so in the February timeframe. And then yet another one commented on the fact that they have asked their consultants to take a significant pay cut. So why do I tell you all of this, right? So I do think that we have to count on, it's not at a level that it was in February. And I'm always a believer in, kind of plan for the worst and hope for the best. And also, I would say, know your market, right? What is the market that you are in? And then calibrate your expectations and your approach relative to that targeted market and that targeted job market. So what does that mean? If you're not in Poland or in Greece, but if you're in the UK or in Croatia, as you were saying, Irina, then I would definitely count on things taking longer, because then if it would normally be 6 months, then maybe it's going to be 50% more than what would be the normal time to land a job. I think you also need to count on the fact that if there are fewer opportunities, and we all hear about people that have lost jobs and that have entered the market, there will be more candidates. So competition is going to be quite stiff to a degree. And that means that, okay, how can you prepare and how can you stand out and show a different side so that, you're attracting attention to you. I would also say that if you were maybe working in hospitality and you're in HR, then for sure you could look at other sectors, right? Maybe there are other sectors that are doing well and that are transferable and very easy, or even, adjacent in a way. Like for me, yes, pharma, biotech, but adjacent medical devices, services to life sciences, they're adjacent sectors. You can also look at that. I would look at jobs and transferable skills, and I would for sure also think about pay, right? And like, as I mentioned, one of the search firms has asked for this pay sacrifice. This is not a single occurrence. So my advice or my suggestion would be, when asked about pay, I would always say, look, I would expect fair and competitive pay that is relevant for this particular market and this particular segment. But I would also determine for myself, what's my minimum baseline? and what will I not, what will I not go beyond, so that you're clear in a way on what that may be. And maybe something entirely different, because all of this is about syncing up your expectations with that specific market that you are pursuing in a way. I think in the spirit of preparation and competition, I think it's also good that if you're in an active job search situation and you're not working on the job, that you use the time to invest in yourself, right? Whatever that means. I'm like, for me specifically, this means basically three things. It means that I have a coach and I'm working on, some very specific things that are, close to my heart. I've signed up for an aspiring group HR director course that runs over 6 months that, gives me insight into what's new, but also allows me to expand my network and meet new people and different people. And then I also reserve a chunk of time every day to really look at quite diverse topics, right? And like diverse topics either by virtue of podcasts, there are so many on offer, or Zoom event as an example in a way. But I choose them quite broadly and quite diversely in order to also expand my horizon and maybe get some new inspiration, and use this time productively. So my tips, if you like, sync up your expectations to the labor market and invest in yourself. That would be it from the job seeker's perspective, if you like.
Thank you for sharing that perspective, and I think also the key learnings of also what you're saying, and the thinking you've had to go through is to say, given this external situation, which is pretty extraordinary, and we don't know when it's going to get any better or any different, we need to reset, as you were saying, our expectations in terms of the roles, in terms of even the compensation, and also use this time to invest in ourselves and to kind of help us maybe even not only invest in ourselves, but also do a little bit of soul searching in terms of what is it as well that we may be looking for. Are we still following the same path that we always have been following? Are there different paths that we could look into? Are there different strategies, job search strategies that we can look into? And Sunita, I'd really like your views on that as well, in terms of, given this context, and Karin has helped us bridge very nicely between here are the facts and here's my experience with it and here's what I'm doing with it. Maybe we can zoom back out a little bit in terms of some broad strokes approaches in terms of the job strategy. And in the meantime, I will be putting out another poll because I want to hear from you out there if you are searching for a job. We did prepare, and Sunita, you'll excuse me, but while you speak, I'm happy to launch this poll to get a sense of how long at least people have been looking for new opportunities out there before we go into the job strategy poll. Go ahead, Sunita, sorry.
No problem. Thank you for that, Karin. I think it's always so wonderful to have a practical experience, right? And Karin being in the job market now, who better than her to share her strategy? So a couple of things you said, Karin, that really struck me. And one was invest in yourself. And I would just reiterate that, right? And the second is recalibrate your expectations. COVID is tough, right? And every conversation, unfortunately, we have these days, we talk about COVID. But COVID actually has a positive side to it, however hard it may be for many of us. I'm sure, have been touched by it, and me personally also with some members of the family. But it is the perfect moment to step back. It's the moment to find the silver lining in the cloud. And when you said invest in yourself, Karin, it struck me to say, what can you do when you step back, right? You figure out who you are. I know we all know who we are, but I'm still figuring out. I'm 54. So it's a perfect moment to maybe recalibrate. Who am I? What do I actually want? And what am I offering to this market? I think Irina and Andrea's experts have shared a bit of the market. I'm sure all of you have your own knowledge, but who am I? What do I want? And what do I offer the market? Now, I'm a very practical person for the ones who know me already. So I'm going to be not broad strokes, probably very practical, Paola, if you allow me. The job search strategy, right? There are many, many, many ways to do this, but I have a very simple approach to it because I think sometimes simplicity solves things, right? 3 steps: prepare, 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 prepare. That's the first step. Second is target. I'm a marketing person. I'm sorry, I have to say it. And the third is network, 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 right? So prepare, target, and network. And I'm briefly just going to give you a couple of strategies and maybe 1 or 2 examples of what can be done. So the first is preparation. Preparation has 3 aspects to it. The first is figure out for yourself what your skills and competencies are. And I call this bucket or circle, if you will, can do. What can I do? So what are my skills and competencies? Because now the market is looking much more at skill sets. They're not looking at jobs. They're looking at skills and experiences. One very, very simple way to do that, very simple, take a blank sheet of paper, write your list of accomplishments, things you're proud of, things you've done, literally from your childhood. You know, my earliest memory is 6 when I did something good and I was proud of. It sounds weird what I'm saying, but trust me, if you, and I've done this, so I know it works. If you write this list of accomplishments, from that, you can pull out your skills and competencies. You will be surprised. You will think, oh my God, this was so obvious to me. And oh, there it is. So it's a trend, right? So first, things you can do, many other ways to do it, but figure out your skills and competencies. Second, what is it that you want to do? This is that perfect moment to say, what inspires me? What drives me? What's my passion, right? Simple. Blank sheet of paper. I love blank sheets of papers. Left column, what I love doing, what I can do 24 hours a day. Right column, what I absolutely hate doing and I will not do and I'll never want to do in my life, right? Something to figure out what you want to do. That's the second. And the third is, who am I? And, you know, I'm not going to give you long lectures on value propositions and personal brands. There's loads of stuff on Google, but who am I? What is it that I am bringing, you know, to the table? Why me versus somebody else? Thinking about that. And there are many, many ways to do that. But also, what are my constraints? And we have to be realistic. You know, sometimes it's a geographical constraint. Nowadays, there could be a financial constraint. So what is it that, am I the only breadwinner in the family? You know, do I need to think about certain things? So that third bucket is about who am I, but also what are my family and geographical financial constraints, if you will. So what I can do, my skills and competencies, what I want to do, what my constraints are. The beauty of it is that's the sweet spot, right? If you find the intersection of these 3 circles, if I picture them as circles, that's the sweet spot. Once you figure that out, then you can just begin to build scenarios. So a scenario could be, I've been in corporate life, I want to continue in corporate life in the same industry. Another scenario could be, as Paola, I think very nicely said, she's at a stage in her life where she says, I'm being an entrepreneur and I'm testing out the market and I'm trying something different. I know of somebody in my family who said, I want to do a startup. Let me try that out, right? And it's endless because the market has flex things, virtual jobs. I mean, there's again loads and loads and loads of research of how the world of work is changing. So think of scenarios. Once you've done that, you've prepared. Okay, so that's first step, done. Check. You know, not so easy, of course, it's hard work. It'll probably take you a lot of time to actually do that. So invest, you know, invest in yourself. Second step is targeting. And when I say targeting, let's take a concrete example. If one of your scenarios is, I'm in corporate life, you know, I'm somewhere in the mid of my career and I want to continue in big corporate, then your scenario, your targeting starts with 3 things. Again, I love 3 things, as you can see, right? First is target the list of industries. So what are the industries that you want to work in or might like to work in, and what do you not want to work in? Now, the not sometimes is fascinating because it's very easy for us as humans to know what we don't want. You know, some people may say, I don't agree with the gun industry, so I don't want to work there. So simply, again, what you want, what you don't want, but a target list of industries. Then from that, you can draw the target list of companies, very concretely saying, if I want to work in the fast-moving consumer goods, I would like to work for Coca-Cola, and I definitely would not like to work for P&G, right? So target list of companies. And then most importantly is the target list of networks. Now, networks, and there's a whole podcast on that. You can watch part 1 and part 2, right, Paola? Done by Paola, me, and Susan. But simply, networks is people you know, right? The obvious ones that are around you. Recruiters, we have some already online. So all these, how many people are online now, Irina? 23, 25 today?
We have 28.
Yes.
28. So that's my call to fill in that Excel sheet, because you just have 28 people multiplied by however many people we know, right? People you know, recruiters, and social media. I mean, that's a world out there. I know Irina is the millennial generation, so she'll share more about it, and Andreea. But there's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, right? Telegram. I'm losing track myself. So targeting industries, companies, networks. So that's the second step. Now you've prepared, you know your target. Hard work, guys and ladies and gentlemen, I say, because this is half the work. And there will be moments where you will pull your hair out and you'll say, oh my God, I'm not getting to the sweet spot. That's cool, because from chaos will come confusion. But you need to prepare, you need to invest, because if you go slow to go, you will go really fast. Trust me. And I'm saying this having done it myself, having seen many of the execs, but also younger people that I work with having done that. So that's step 2. And then third, networking. I won't bore you with all the details, but again, 3 things. First, be very clear on your outcome and your objective. Networking is not about, oh, I want to find a job. Be very clear what you want from the network. It's a give and take. Paola is today a friend of mine. I worked with her in Philip Morris. She's a friend. She's became my network 25, 30 years later. Did I know that at the moment? No. But there was a lot of give and take in the relationship along the way. So that's second. And third, remember, a network is not one person. So I might know, I don't know, millions of people. Irina knows another million. That's your network. So it's not the 4 or 5 people that you choose. It's the people they know. So be clear on the outcome, give and take. And again, it's a much broader network than you have. And now that you have your preparation, you know your target, you kind of have a sense of your network. What do you actually do with a network? And this comes a little bit to me, very soon I'm going to turn the word over to Irina, about how do you stand out? How do you shine, right? I don't have all the answers, but I have 2 or 3 very concrete examples of what I've seen people do, right? That works effectively. I've seen people actually read all the media that there's out there, figure out an issue in a company. So example, you want to work for Coca-Cola. What's going on for Coca-Cola at this moment that's a burning issue for them? And there are many ways to find that out, right? Through your social networks, through LinkedIn, through, you name it, websites. Find out where you can add value on that specific issue. In your network, try and find somebody through LinkedIn or other media who is involved in that issue and have a conversation. And so it becomes very specific. It's about an issue that's on the mind of the company itself. It's a fantastic tool, trust me, because sometimes there are no jobs, but I think, as Paola said, they will create one for you. And I'm saying that also from my HR experience. They'll say, wow, we didn't actually have that job out there. It's not published out there, but it was a hidden job. We were thinking about it. So there are lots of hidden jobs out there. So you might just have that first. And then the second, CVs, great. We are still in the CV world. Yes, we use recruitment agencies. Thank you, right? Keeping many of you in jobs. But what is eye-catching? What really stands out, right? And 2 examples that struck me. One was, I've seen Amazon does it, but I know many other companies do it. They don't want CVs anymore. They want a commercial. They want a YouTube video. They want to know who you are in a YouTube creative, innovative manner, right? Okay, there are many other companies that ask for those kind of things. So how do you stand out? The one that I love is somebody actually during a network conversation did a metaphor. And he said, I'm a bottle of wine. And this was during a conversation, obviously, but he also made a little video and posted it on LinkedIn. And he said, and now I need to decide whether I'm the nice wine, or, which is 15 years old, or I'm the average wine that you drink quickly. So what is that, right? What kind of wine am I? And that's really skills and competencies, right? What am I offering? The label on the bottle is my CV. So that's all the ingredients that you see on the back side of the bottle, right? You know, what's there, which region does it come from, what are the other things that have gone into making of it? So that's the CV. The consumer is identify targeting, you know, is it the Carrefour or the Deleuze or the, you know, whatever is in Switzerland and the other countries, or is it that specialized wine shop, you know, where I want to position? So that's targeting, that's about the company. What's the price of my bottle? You know, how am I actually pricing this? Is it a cheaper wine? Is it, where am I? And this goes to a little bit of, I think, what Karin said. Unfortunately, these days in the market, sometimes you do have to take pay cuts, but again, you have some other benefits. So what's that? And then what's the culture of the company? You know, do I want to be in a company that drinks the wine and just closes the bottle and dumps it? Or the one that sits there and sips it and tastes it, you know, etc. So I thought this was cool. It's something around the 6 P's of marketing. So whatever is your way, find it, prepare, target, network, and then use those networks, right? And I love this subject, so I could go on forever, and that's not the aim because there are many more voices on here. So
Yes.
forgive me for getting
Well,
away.
we love you for that. We love you for loving it, and I'm sure people can always connect with you afterwards. And I do want to share in the meantime the results of the poll in terms of we've had about 70% of the people responding, and it's a fairly less than 6 months is the majority of the people. If you are on the market, it's less than 6 months that you have been looking for a role. But more interestingly, Sunita, linked a little to what you were saying, and I'm not sure if people can see the polling results here. But the number one, if I were to say, you know, what's the number one part of the job strategy process where people would really like to get better at, it is what you were also mentioning before about the networking, but also networking with the right people, right? The moment you are able to make your lists and make your analysis and find your sweet spot, then that's the moment to start activating the right network. And then how to do that, I do encourage you as well to listen to the podcast with Sunita and Susan, because I think it does give valuable inputs, especially in terms of having an objective in mind when you are networking. But while you were speaking, I've had not a call, as you can see, I was not on the phone, but I've had a chat question, which I will try to articulate as well. There are some jobs that are not necessarily standard jobs out there, and they could be more creative jobs that don't necessarily either come on a LinkedIn application, don't necessarily come with a job title, don't necessarily come with a job description, unless you may want to call it graphic designer, or you want to call it creative director, or you want to call it again, out of your typical industry type of jobs. What would you recommend, and this is for everyone actually, how to position yourself if you have these multiple type of skill sets that ultimately land within a creative, whether it's too simple to say graphic design, but it tends to be boxed into a job description. How do you move out of that box? How do you position yourself as an experienced professional creative director that can actually spend their skills in different areas and in different type of jobs? How do you break out of some of the rigid paradigms that we find in job descriptions and job titles?
It's not an answer, but my immediate reflection when you say this, Paola, is that in a world where flexibility and agility is, you know, one of the buzzwords, right? And where companies are asking for that, I think that if you have quite diverse experience and you've done different things, I think this is a significant asset because, you know, what will you do? You will bring the experiences from your backpack to bear. And if you have quite diverse experience, then you can integrate and interlink. So if that is your situation, then I would really think about, okay, what has brought me to this point that I have this diverse experience? What do I really love? And what are my selling points? And the selling points are really this bringing together the diverse experience and the flexibility and the agility that results from that. So that would be my, in the moment, thought on this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also links me to another question that we've also had. It's more related to the ladies out there. So I'll ask the gentleman to excuse me on this question. But sometimes, for personal reasons, we may take a break from work. And that break may be linked to family, maternity, or other very legitimate reasons, I would dare say. And then it's kind of hard to reposition yourself in the market when companies see that gap in your CV, or even those who decide to take a sabbatical break. You know, the difficulties in breaking out of a very rigid way of looking at curriculums. And Sunita, I do understand there are people who are doing YouTubes. We have somebody as well who has been asked to do a video in marketing to present herself and to kind of sell herself and what's her unique proposition and why should a company be hiring her. So videos are becoming a very popular way of doing that. But the questions are all related around, how do you fill that gap when you know that that gap has been really focused on other priorities in your life? And how do you make sure you're not losing out or being discriminated? I use that word, my word, not the word of the person who asked the question, in a job market which tends to be driven by algorithms, and therefore it tends to quickly say this CV, yes, this CV, no, based on pre-populated, if you will, formulas and equations. So I really open it up to the panel. As you can tell, I'm already taking questions because I'm conscious of time too, as we are at 2:30, and I want to give an opportunity for to have an interactive conversation and to be a little bit this maître of ceremonies and putting questions out there to the panelists to be able to support some of our participants.
I'm happy to add just something on that from an HR perspective and also from a woman perspective. I think it depends a little bit on what companies you're looking at, because yes, if you are going for the traditional companies that are not looking at sabbaticals or not looking at that women or men need to take some time off, then sometimes it's about deciding, and that goes back to what Karin said, recalibrate expectations, because maybe those are not the companies that you actually want to be going towards, and that's opening up a little bit your mind and expectations. That's been my sense and my experience from what I've had and heard.
And I can jump in to say that when you start the process, you would be surprised how many are actually open to have such profiles as a part of their organization, because diversity is becoming a big topic, and diversity is no more revolving around gender. It is also coming along from the experiences that you've had, the breaks that you have taken, the industries that you have not worked for, and etc., etc. There are a lot of people welcoming people who want to come back after a career break. So give it a try. Don't be disappointed if you don't get a yes in the first chance itself, but keep trying.
But I would also add to that a little bit, Mona. I think it's also about owning your decision in a way, right? If you decided that this is what you wanted to do, because whatever the reasons are, this made sense to you at that moment in time, then I think it goes a long way to also being articulate in saying why this was critical to you at that point in time, regardless of some of the job consequences that may be perceived to be the consequence of that decision, right? I think if you can be stronger and feel more secure in that, I think that will also be a really big help. And I would say something maybe a little bit more generically, because this is about algorithms and how do you get your CV to the top of a pile. I don't think that you can rely on LinkedIn or whatever search engine to put you to the top of a pile, right? Even if you see, I'm top 10 of LinkedIn applicants, I think you still need to find other ways to then make sure that you're getting noticed. So for me, the way I have done that, and the way I have done that for others, is that I'll try and see, is there someone that I know within my network that, has some insight into that organization, where I can then maybe approach the hiring manager or the recruiter and, go directly targeted to them with a story of what I find interesting, why I'm motivated in the company, why I'm motivated in the job, what I could do in order to actually make a contribution. So I think, find that way in so that, you don't leave it up to chance and the search engines and the algorithms in a way to put your CV to the top of the list.
This is where I have to step in a little bit, Karin, because
of course.
you just put it into my sector basically, and I do have to mention the social media etiquette that obviously is there to support us. It's not something that we should be afraid of. It's not something that comes out of the blue that we need to completely adapt to, that we haven't been using before. I think we just need to tailor a little bit our approach and make use of the technology that is available to us these days to even get closer to that actual job. Maybe it's a job that's been advertised. Maybe in most cases, it might not be a job that is advertised. It might be a job that you can co-create, or you can really step in because you have a particular skill or achievement that a company is looking for. So I'm talking about the social media etiquette in our podcast episode as well. I think this is something that we need to be mindful about, because first of all, you will still be communicating with human beings on the other end. So we should treat them as human beings. And as much as you can put your value proposition out there, if it is on LinkedIn and if you find somebody that you have in common with the company that you're looking to apply for or that you're interested in, your passions and contributions match that particular field, then why not look for people that you can communicate with directly, because that will help you stand out. That's exactly how I, as a recruiter, will filter through 200 something applicants and realize that this particular name rings a bell, and this person has reached out to me and told me more about what they're doing, why they're interested in this role, and I might actually pay more attention because they've gone above and beyond to catch my attention for this position. I'm sure line managers will react similarly if you just make it a little bit easier for them to recognize you and not the other hundreds of applicants that are in that process. So this is where I think a little bit more activity, more interest, more effort could be used on the social media strategy as well, for you to promote your identity and your digital identity as well, because here we are digitally available to you, and this is our identity here. We are in a world where we're moving slightly to the virtual. Interviews are moving into a virtual direction. Some onboarding, I've heard, is moving into the virtual direction as well. So we will be getting more proficient in these skills. And whilst we're at it, we might as well use social media to help us get that job that we desire.
Very well said. And what I love about this multi-generational conversation is that it helps us in the different generations that we're in to see technology as really as an extra tool for us to be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And I think we've broadened the conversation to say, well, it's not only about applying online, because 70% of the jobs are not online. You will not be able to find an opportunity, or let's say there are lower chances because of everything we've said before. And this force fitting of a CV into a standard job description, that's almost old school. So I've just to summarize a little bit, honor your decisions. Like Karin was also saying, honor your values. If you've decided to take a break from your career, you've decided to pursue other priorities, stay confident to that, honor that, and find different ways of anyway connecting to the relevant people that you want to connect to the relevant industries, using social media to do so without right away sending a CV. I mean, when I was in the corporate world, people would connect with me on LinkedIn. And even before we had a, hi, how are you conversation, they would send their CV. Now, that's not the best approach. That really isn't. Because when you're on the corporate side of things, the last thing you want, because you're overwhelmed with many other things to do, and maybe that's not even your role, because everything is through a talent acquisition, is through a portal that anyway you need to redirect people towards. So that is, I would say, it's not the best way of networking and targeting, let's say, corporate professionals that may help you in your next step. Now, I'm also conscious of the fact we have 17 minutes to go. We've covered a lot of ground, from looking into the external, what's the job market telling us, and what we can do about it in terms of resetting expectations. I do want to open it up to other questions. If you have them, please feel free to use the chat. Thank you, Oliver. I see, yeah, as I reflect on my last 20 years, Oliver is saying, all my roles have been found through networking, really reminding me of the importance of that channel. And Sunita, of course, so true. Very, very true. And also, I'm happy to share, my experience has always been 90% through networking, and the remaining 10% headhunters. So never has it really been through any kind of sending a CV through an online application.
Paola, if somebody wants to jump in and so we can hear other voices other than ours, is that okay with you as MC?
Absolutely. This is what I'm opening up the discussion for you.
Feel free to unmute and ask your question, so we know there are other people on the call besides us.
And we're all colleagues, by the way.
Yeah, hi guys, Claudia here. I was wondering, what is your opinion on LinkedIn? Because I've got those I see different sides of it. In one way, I see it as a great tool to get back to the network, or to expand my network, to see, who's where. But I still struggle to find LinkedIn a source that would help us to, to find the job. For me, it's still more a network tool. Are other people thinking the same?
Yes. It's a networking tool for me too.
I would call it the Facebook of the professional world, and that's pretty much it. So you get connected, you can know what's happening in their lives, in the professional life, and catch up on the activity there. But if you're using LinkedIn as the sole thing for job search, it's a very misleading. It's very misleading in my view, because it is one of the tools that you could use as a part of your strategy, but that's not the only thing that you need to use as a part of your strategy.
I guess I will look at jobs that appear there, because I'm interested in where is there some movement, whether that's geographical movement, or company movement. And what I do like is that it's very easy to look at quick descriptions about an organization. So I will use it for that purpose as well. If I want to have like a quick snapshot of, okay, what about Vifor? Okay, who are they? What do they do? Who are the people that work there? Do I know anyone? Is it a company I would like to approach? How would I go about that? I will use it for that more than truly for, a job in a way. Because I don't, I think you can see it, right? The numbers of applicants, and I always think you become the needle in the proverbial haystack. So.
And I think the beauty of LinkedIn is if you focus on the posts and the groups, because sometimes they lead you to other things where you can know more about the culture of the company or who the people are. So that's another use for it, but it's just a tool. Exactly.
Because I see your question on chat, and just to take the question, where else would you look if it's not LinkedIn? I would say, let's go back to the entire point which Sunita raised, and it's really going into how do you prepare yourself, how do you really build that strategy, how do you target and network. In my view, network. That's where you find your that's where you have the highest chances of finding your job, if I can put it like that. I'm not saying headhunters, search firms don't help. They do. They absolutely help you get closer to the target areas. And also, at least in my experience, I would say there's no harm in when you are in the market, there's no harm going out and interviewing yourself. It's also to understand every interview gives you an opportunity to learn more about yourself, learn a little bit more about another company, another industry. What are they looking for? It's a bit of, self-awareness that comes in through that process and self-revelation. So go through those processes. It's not that you don't, but network, triggering your network in a smart way, using the social etiquette. I'm going to steal that from you, Irina. I really, really like that, because exactly what Paola alluded to, just sending your CVs across, just sending your profiles across and assuming that things should happen because you know what, I sent my CV. What more do you need? Sorry. We all need to put in a little bit more effort to get to the core of it.
It's also a question of time, I think, because we do have to understand on the other end, we also have these kind of frustrations sometimes, right? That the line managers are not paying so much attention to the CVs that we're sending through and so on and so forth. But having worked together with various organizations in the past couple of years, I've come to realize that it's also a very short time frame that we're giving them to pay attention to the CV. It's very little information for them to base a decision on. So then ultimately, the only thing that can help you is still your achievements and your skills and putting a face to a name as well. It's exactly what Sunita was mentioning before. If you were a bottle of wine, this is just the one layer of it. You also have to price yourself. You also have to let them know exactly what your quality is like and so on and so forth. LinkedIn helps facilitate just that communication. And I want to bring it back to the LinkedIn groups because this is something that I'm very fond of myself. And I get a lot of engagement through LinkedIn groups. And I know some of you that are actually participating today do as well. So I'm sure there are some other stories that we can share together. But it seems to me like there's a sense of community coming from these groups, and there's a sense of togetherness that everybody is in the same boat, and we're just trying to find out more. If you can help us, then great. If not, it's also great. But at least you're trying to go the extra mile and putting yourself out there for better results at the end of the day.
And Murtaza, maybe just one more thing. You said, where else would you look? I think any social media tool, whether it's Facebook or Insta or whatever, is only a tool, because startups, for example, are hiring more from Facebook because they're looking at a different population. But again, it's just a tool to get a name. So that's very important. All social media tools are one part of your strategy. I think Mona said it very eloquently.
And also, when we were starting the call, and we were looking into the external market, and the vacancies are less in the traditional corporate world. I want to link it to what you were saying, Sunita, about startups. I can speak for a fact for the US and definitely for Switzerland. This has been an amazing year for startups in the sense that, and they will not go necessarily this traditional way when it comes to filling vacancies. And so you may also want to look into your territory, wherever your territory is. And I think we also need to be mindful of that. I had a question, somebody moved to another country, it's a different country. You need to start kind of from scratch to not build your network, but through your network, help to find other people located in the new territory where you want to operate in, but connect as well with some chambers of commerce. Why not get into some associations, whether it's trade associations or if you're, as I said, interested in startups. It is proliferating out there. Then, between proliferation and actual possibilities, we need to see, but explore these different avenues that are out there based on you know, what it is that you want to pursue and achieve, keeping in mind that these are difficult times. So I do want to close it with a bit of a sense of, you know, let's breathe and kind of be nice to ourselves. You know, it is a difficult market, and you may be encountering several rejections or maybe facing several walls. But I'm not saying it's okay, but it is okay because the walls are there. So it's not about you. And we do want to end it with a little bit of a resilience. How do you keep yourself motivated? Some other people are being challenged at the moment in terms of their own self-worth, their own sense of confidence. I've seen recently somebody saying rejection is protection. I'm not sure about that, but I do think that every no you get will get you closer to a yes. The more no's you may get, the more you're going to say, okay, next time. And the yes does not necessarily mean a job, but the yes may mean I'm going to be able to meet this other person. I'm going to be able to interact differently with this other person. So I encourage you to collect as many no's as possible so that you will get closer and closer to what you're actually looking for. And we do have a couple of final, let's say, polling questions here on how you are, excuse me, I will soon, hopefully, be able to find this. Relaunch. Oh, here we go. Boosters. Launch poll. And a couple of ideas here. You know, when I look at what I've done and achieved in my life, I can easily talk about 3 to 4 things I'm super proud of. Go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. I'm already smiling now just thinking about it. Only 3 to 4? I can think of many more. Haven't thought of it, but I will. And your inspiration quests, and how are you letting yourself be inspired every day? You know, what is giving you that energy? And I think we also have a question here on my greatest energizers. Family, friends, pets, sports. The energizers are within me, are many more than any list could ever capture. And I think maybe we can share our personal views with the panelists on what is it that's wowing us, what is it that's energizing us when we have our down moments. First of all, we know they're going to go back up, but how do we boost them back up, and how can we share that? And that would be a nice way, I think, to end this chat. Whoever wants to go first, while our participants are filling in the poll, please go right ahead and share with us what's still wowing you and what's motivating you and energizing you.
So why don't I go first then? Because it's a very recent sense of rejection, and it felt very much like that, and deep disappointment. And then how do you overcome that? And one is, I don't know if I can even retrieve him because he's sleeping underneath the desk. Come. Here.
Okay.
He's unconditional love, right? You cannot go wrong with him. It's always good, and I think that whether it's your pet or your parents or your partner, when you have a moment of oops, now I've lost my applications here. When you have this moment of rejection, then you need to get that reinforcement of that unconditional love and people that will pick you up and that will boost your confidence. And I needed that, so that would be one. But I guess for me the turning point was my outplacement consultant, and she helped me to process, and by extracting what are the elements that had really gone well that I will definitely replicate. And her name is Suzanne, and she's really wonderful. And Suzanne kept saying, well, you did 10 interviews, so something must have gone right. And what is it? And she kept hammering that point. And then she also helped me to digest what will I do differently based on the feedback and to dive into that. So find someone that can, boost your confidence, give you the unconditional love, and find someone that can help you to process and to extract the lessons learned, so that you can then fortified in a way move from your no's to the yes in the future. So that would be my thought.
For me, it is just managing my energy. Some wise person told me, don't manage your time, manage your energy. So it means when I'm tired, I just go take a break. I force myself, I get fresh air, sport. And so just think of your energy and utilize it in the best way. That works for me.
We can go next, and I completely concur both with Karin and Sunita. Energy is something that you need to manage. Finding unconditional love for me, it really comes from family and friends, but also from really making the list of all the things we are grateful for. I mean, there are so many things in our lives, including the fact that we can breathe so easily, we have healthy bodies. There are so many wonderful things we already have, which we need to be grateful for. And that in itself just brings a smile back and saying, okay, whatever that one little failure is, one little failure, we will come through it, and it will pass as well.
I feel like we're going to repeat quite a few, actually, because I do feel similarly to what the ladies have mentioned so far. It is a combination of things. I don't think we can rely on only one thing. For me, I have gone fully digital with everything. And recently, in recent months, I've actually taken my sports class on a virtual avenue as well. And I meet with my friends every week, actually. They give me a very positive energy. We also kind of bounce off each other, and we're still doing something to keep that mental that positive mental attitude going, which sometimes I feel like there's a need of, and you need people that you confide in and that you vent with, and so on and so forth. So this has definitely been an improvement for me throughout this entire period, because it was a solution to the lockdown as well, right? So I had to find something outside of my day-to-day activity that I could really energize with. And it's not just this, but it's a small tweak that I've done in my schedule that actually helped me tremendously. And I've also built closer relationships because of it.
Andreea, would you like to share your wows as well?
Yeah, of course I agree with the says that I have been hearing. I would say meditating, finding myself, being thankful for all the good things that happened to me. After a failure, I always like to just to be alone, actually, to do some sport and taking some time for myself, thinking and learning, because I think it's great to fail. Actually, I think it's great to have deception, because this will help you to step back and to move forward better. So it's actually a great lesson, and also the whole this situation, of COVID. Unfortunately, this also helped us to find with ourselves, and to take some time, to take more time for us, actually, and to think of who we are and what is our role here, actually. So yeah, it's kind of a mix.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we're right at 3:01, 1 minute past 3 o'clock. What's wowing me is you guys, actually the panelists. Amazing. I'm really overwhelmed by the support that I've been getting from my network. Speaking of networks, I know there are cats and dogs. I've said it before. We are very inclusive here. But I do want to thank the lovely panelists, guest speakers, for wonderful friends, great professionals in the meantime. And let's take care of one another. I think that's what's really wowing me. I'm seeing the whole world as a colleague right now, quite frankly, and that we're all in it together. We all have our stories, the wonderful stories behind. So with this, we will be sending the recording of this session, and we'll see if we're going to organize some other World of Work session. We will continue with the podcast, so stay tuned. And until then, have a wonderful week ahead, and thank you to everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, Bono. We love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, wow.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.